Hey guys, so today we're going to cover a little bit about rope halter fitting. Here at the Highline Herd, we like to educate, so that was the entire point of our podcast, and now we're going to start creating videos as well to go with some of that. So we figured a good start with something you will see a lot in a lot of our videos is rope halters, specifically their fit and where they should be set. So let's start with the nose, because this is the part most people get wrong on every single halter. Your noseband should always be up here. This is where they've got the most bone and cartilage. If your rope halter is sitting down here and your horse flings their head up or they put in a lot of pressure, they can actually break this little bone right here, or if it's far enough down, the cartilage of their nose itself. A horse's skull bone for their nose tapers to a point. It is not solid all the way through. It tapers to a point, much like ours does. So you want to make sure this is correct, because if it's not correct, you can severely hurt your horse, you can cause injury and discomfort, and that can create a lot more issues. Now the actual cheek pieces, as you can see, the knots sit back here closer to the edge of his jaw, and they sit here on his front. So they're not pushing into this point, they're not hitting any of the nerves in here. They're sitting in such a way they're not going to activate any nerves, and they're not going to interfere with the movement of his head or the movement of his jaw. That brings us down here to the throat piece. So your rope halter should always be long enough here that you can sit it behind the jaw like so and still have enough room your horse can chew, your horse can move around a little bit. I can comfortably get my hand in there and it's not tight on him, it's not choking him. These are all signs of a properly fitting rope halter. He's got room to move, he's got room to chew, it's sitting on his nose properly. This knot is up closer to his ear, it's not down here, it's not here. So this is a properly fitting rope halter. Let me grab an improperly fitting rope halter. So I'm going to show you guys how you put on a rope halter today to go with the instructions of how to fit one. So this is your tail. This is the long part. Your halter looks like kind of a mess when it's not on. So you take your tail and you can wrap it around their necks like so, so you have something to hold on to. You're going to guide their nose through the hole, maybe with a little bit more grace than I do. And then you're going to pull this piece under and behind their jaw. Remember what we talked about in properly fitting a rope halter? It should be behind the jaw. So I'm going to pull it through this little loop here. This is called your post. I'm going to pull it through and I'm going to check his whole head to make sure everything's sitting where it's supposed to sit and it's all proper, holding my tail through the post. So then I'm going to describe it the way that makes sense to me. You're going to take a loop towards his eye. So see how this is pointed at his eye? Then you're taking the rest of your tail, you're going under your post through that loop, and then your tail should be pointed down towards his shoulder. That way it's not whacking him in the eye, it's not whacking him in the jaw, and it's out of your way. That is how you properly tie one, and you can make it as snug as you like. You always tie to the post, because tying to the post keeps your knot very secure. If I tie it up here, I almost tied it to the post. If I tie it above the post, like so, it's not going to be locked in place. If he puts enough pressure on that, see how it starts to come undone and it slides down his head? That doesn't work. That defeats the purpose of a rope halter. And you also don't want to tie it down here, just because then it gets really bulky and can be really uncomfortable for your horse. And again, not very secure, right? He puts enough pressure on that, it's coming off his head. So one more time. Take your tail through your post, make sure everything's sitting where it's supposed to be, loop towards his eye, go under your post through that loop, and pull back towards his shoulder. And now your rope halter's good. Sweet. Oh boy. So we talked about a properly fitting rope halter. Now let's talk about an improperly fitting one. Now Valor does have a big head. He's a draft cross, so there's not a lot that fits him unless it's made for bigger horses or Englishy. So the noseband is in an okay position, but see how high it wants to sit on his face right here where these nerves are. So this is sitting too high. Yes, it's not all the way down here, but it's too high where it is. It needs to be more about there. But because the cheek pieces are so short, it's never going to sit there. It's always going to want to ride up like that, which then defeats the purpose and is just generally uncomfortable. This part is not where it's supposed to be. You can see that it's not sitting back on his jaw like it's supposed to. You can see it's fairly tight. I can't really easily get my hand in there. You can see that this part is very tight. I can barely get a finger underneath that. So this does not fit. It is too tight here. It sits too high here. These cheek pieces are way too short. There's not enough here. See how low this knot wants to sit? It is sitting all the way down here. It needs to be more about here. Down here means it's not going to create the pressure it needs to for certain cues and commands. It means if he lays down, he can probably scratch it out because it's not tying properly because there's not enough tail to tie properly. And it just generally is going to be uncomfortable and bulky when you put a halter or when you put a bridle over this. So this is not a fit. It's just in general too small for his big old noggin. And you can just tell looking at it that it's not great.